I think a lot of people are wondering how you ended up in the United States, right? Because
Mhm.
you can't just walk out of North Korea very easily. In fact, now it's almost impossible now. You don't hear about people escaping now because the border's been fortified by China and North Korea, from what I understand.
Yeah, North Korea literally put the country can afford electricity, puts the highly electrified wire fences on entire border of North Korea. So the entire country became a concentration camp.
Mhm.
Not only that, they put the machine. I mean, with the machine guns with the guards every 10 meters, and
Every 10 meters.
on top of that, they buried the landmines.
Oh, that's really extreme. When when I was in China a few years ago in Dandong, which I mentioned earlier, we took a boat trip into the onto that river, and the captain was like, "It's all Chinese people," and then me and my friend, and they were like, "Don't take pictures of the North Korean guards who are stationed on the water's edge because they'll get aggressive." It's a Chinese tour. Nobody listens to anybody. So these old Chinese people are raising up their camera, and we saw the North Korean guys doing like waving us off. And finally, one got so pissed he raised up his rifle and aimed it right at the boat. And all of those Chinese people just started laughing. And me and my friend were like, "Oh my God, we're gonna die. We're gonna die." And the boat captain comes on and he's yelling in Chinese, and I said, "What's he yelling?" And he said, "Oh, something about don't take photos." These guys have no sense of humor on the North Korean border. These guys are not gonna play around.
I mean, they captured a lot of American journalists.
Mhm.
They were at the border and then doing investigation on North Korea. They came across the border and then captured them, sent back to North Korea, and put them in the prison.
Oof,
And
that's
Bill
scary.
Clinton had to go and rescue them
Yeah,
eventually.
wasn't that Lisa Ling's
Yeah,
sister? She
yeah.
said, though, she was trying to run across the river or something like
She
that.
wasn't at the North Korean side.
Oh, she wasn't?
She was on the Chinese side.
Oh, that's pretty
That's when
scary.
the guards, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. I thought she had sort of, like, screwed around by going over there to take photos or
There
something.
was a guy who was like Robert Park, one of the missionaries. He thought he wanted to bring God's gospel to North Korea. So
Oh,
he
no.
walked over from that to North Korea with a Bible in his hand.
No. Oh, that's horrible.
And then they tortured him to the point where he cannot function as a man, and he tried to commit suicide many times afterwards. It was, yeah.
There's a guy who used to listen to my show named Kenneth Bay. Do you know that guy?
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
Canadian.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he was in prison for, like, a dozen years or something like that for leaving Bibles around in hotels. It's just the country is extreme, as we've discussed here. So the border's more fortified now. I don't wanna get
Mhm.
too tied down in that.
Mhm.
How do most people escape in the past? How did most people escape from North Korea
Most people escaped in 90s
in the
when
90s?
the Great Famine began.
Mhm.
So that's when the regime also Kim Jong Un didn't actually really care. I mean, if they don't want to stay here, why would you not let them like go, right? So he's like, okay, let them go, and he was fine with that. But then he realized these people not just only go China, they go to South Korea,
Mhm.
they go to America, they go to other countries, and they became wait what they thought they're exposing us now, right? That's how North Korean defector came out and giving the testament to the UN, State Department, the White House.
Yeah, doing what you're doing.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So they were like exposing the regime. So now North Korea is keep condemned by the UN about the human rights situation. So now they're like, okay, no, we cannot let the defectors escape anymore. And also North Koreans, when they go, they don't just escape. They go and they make money and send the money back to their family members. Nobody in North Korea escapes saying, I'm going to have a good life myself. They escape because they can sacrifice themselves and make money and send it back to North Korea and their family members. So then when they send money, they don't just get money, they get information.
Right.
And that is where like the biggest killer for the regime, like their lies being exposed.
Right, of course, because if I escape from North Korea and I'm a waiter in South Korea and I'm sending back the annual salary that my family makes every month and it's only part of my income and I have a low level job, people start to go, wait a minute. So he works at a restaurant in South
Yeah.
Korea and he's basically a millionaire compared to how we are. We got to get out of here, right? That's not good. And then word travels fast. Like, how come that family bought a new, has a car now or whatever, right? It's a whole
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah. So that's really changed the system. So they stopped the defection. And that's when, so eventually they started putting the more pressure on the border. But when Kim Jong Un took over, oh my God, I mean, how can he be worse than his father? But he was a lot worse,
Yeah.
apparently. He was a lot evil.
So how did you escape from the DPRK? I think a lot of people. By the way,
Yeah.
if I say North Korea or DPRK, does it matter?
It matters.
It matters.
Because the
Okay.
DPRK is a Democratic People's
Right. It's a joke of a name. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what North Korea wants to be called.
Oh, okay. Well, then
Right, it's
screw
like,
them. North
yeah,
Korea.
North Korea. So, I mean, I don't really care about it. When it comes to that, I think that I don't want to respect the regime at
No.
all.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. So I crossed a frozen river from North Korea to China. And that was actually right before the wire fences went up. So
Okay.
I got very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Roux told me he basically swam through a river and
Yeah,
they were shooting at him, but they
yeah,
probably either didn't have enough bullets or they couldn't see him.
yeah.
And so he made it out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now it seems impossible.
No, it's impossible. And also when you go to China, Chinese also border is like very secure. Like back then, they were like, okay, there are poor people coming over. Maybe we give them some food and then they're gonna go back, right? Usually they did. They go to China. When North Koreans escape from North Korea, we are not like Syrian or like Mexican refugees. There's a democracy somewhere that we wanna
Mhm.
go where the freedom is, right? We're starving. So we just wanna go somewhere they give us food. And if we get food, we wanna go back to our homeland.
Mhm.
So a lot of North Koreans did and go to China, beg the food, and come home and feed their family members and their friends. And China had no problem with it, but then they also saw that how North Korean women were going after and then started condemning the human trafficking that they face. So China also, North Korea complained to them. This is our national security issue. If you let the North Koreans go out, it hurts us. So can you catch them, send us back? That's how,
Right. So
yeah.
China wants a buffer state between South Korea and the United States presence in South Korea,
Mhm.
and North Korea is that buffer state. And also, I think there's an, tell me if you agree with this, there's an element of the Chinese Communist Party saying, hey, you think we're terrible, but at least we're not North Korea. Look how bad it is over there. And as long as that regime exists, they can sort of say, like, we're the only ones who can control them.
But that's the thing. They are using it as a leverage with the USA because North Korea is only served by China, right? North Korea only exists because of China.
Sure, yeah.
Like Kim Jong Un cannot exist without Xi Jinping. So when the US want to discuss about North Korea's threat, they have to go back Chinese. So that's why they are using it as a leverage, diplomatic leverage. That is.
It's so sociopathic to me that there are politicians going, we're just going to let all these people suffer because it keeps this guy in power, which keeps us from having to worry about other
Mm.
issues.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to me that even is. It just sort of shows you like how much bullshit we tell ourselves about caring about the integrity of people and like human rights. I mean, it's just pure
It's
nonsense.
laughable.
Yeah.
It's just a joke.
It's pure not like
Like
we can see the concentration camps. We know that there are people in there that are miserable. We have countless accounts of this, and it's like, oh well, we'll talk about it again maybe later.